Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big announcements yesterday and more to come today, with Boston Priestahh confirmed for the upcoming season, but also Clayster giving some thoughts on how things went on Vegas last year. Ben Janus reckoning that he's going to go to Los Angeles Guerrillas, potentially with the old Seattle Surge coach. Lots to dive into today. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Lots to get into. Obviously there was all the stuff going on with the CDL yesterday. We'll probably get into more of that later today. To be fair, Envoy, the prime athlete that he is, has been doing all sorts of sports over the last few days. Poor Envoy gets exposed here for his swing on Toronto Ultra, and he's in the replies like, look, we're going to gatekeep all the million good ones. He was also last night at that Blue Jays game we discussed last night, throwing the first pitch. I think he used to play baseball a bit when he was younger, to be fair, so I know people were expecting like a 90-mile-an-hour heater to come out of his wrist. But, you know, I don't really think that's how these usually go in these first pitches, is it not? So I definitely think this was more respectable than some that I've seen previously. So anyway, here you go. This was from the crowd PFE. I don't know if this was just a fan or like Toronto had someone attending this game to take a picture of this. But I think this is pretty cool because a lot of Toronto fans that I met when I was there for the major, like, were also either local to Toronto or like big Toronto sports fans in general. So that was pretty cool, and I'm sure there's a bit of crossover going on here. So nice to see. I know that Crimsix was, you know, throwing the dagger in a little bit here as he says, hey, you pictured a T-ball and what in the hell was that? And Envoy gives his kind of POV on it. And Crim's like, look, I wish I was, you know, pretty jealous regardless. Would love to throw a first pitch. So maybe that's going to happen one day. I will certainly be watching if that's going to be the case, if we get a Crimsix first pitch on here somewhere. And as Crim says, if the opportunity is presented, I'll be breaking 80 mile an hour and it'll also be a strike. So we'll see about that one. Hopefully it happens at some point. Let's talk Boston though. If you guys didn't see last night, Slasher to Boston confirms. This not exactly came out of nowhere. I think it's been quite clear this is happening for some time, but no leak has officially said Slasher to Boston before like 1 minute before it was officially confirmed. As Slasher says, excited to join Boston, looking forward to building something special with these guys. And Snoopy was in the replies and Slasher was like, yeah, looking forward to working with you, because Snoopy's definitely got a lot of talent. Depends who they bring in as the fourth, and I think that honestly might make or break this team, who they get as their fourth. Said it yesterday, ideally they'd get Envoy. They can't get Envoy, so you know, the amount of SMG talent out there is diminishing fast. There are some good options, but they'll need someone with upside and someone who fits really well with the rest of their team. There's a few names people are mentioning, but also Priestahh is confirmed. Priestahh is not going to run a sub, I believe. There was some discussion, and I believe CD Oscar Mintel mentioned this on Twitter, that Ghosty to Boston was at least a big conversation, and there were theories about whether Priestahh could run an SMG and Ghosty could be the flex alongside Slasher, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be happening here, and Priestahh, I believe, will be the flex for the team, and they need a fourth. We'll see who that's going to be, and yeah, Slasher says actually super excited to be back with my brother P-Dog, because they won a fair bit on 100 Thieves back in the day. They were different roles at the time. Okay, Slasher was still the main, as he's always been pretty much, but Priestahh was on the grapple Sorg, like the entry Sorg role at the time. But I do think that the flex suits him slightly better, and as Priestahh says, let's get it, Joe. Glad we can make this happen again. And what I'm really excited for about this roster in general is just the revenge tour that both of these guys are going to be on, at least to some degree. Slasher will, look, he was dropped from FaZe, and I'm sure that he expected that to some degree. Joining the team, you kind of know with FaZe that you're going to get a season in there, and if they don't win like multiple events, you're probably going to go. And maybe it was the mistake from them at the start of the season to bring in another main AR alongside Cellium, who plays like a main anyway. Getting a flex in, as they're now doing, we believe, with Drazah, just makes a bit more sense, I think, in general. But still, Slasher, part of him will probably think, look, we had all this drama and beef with Drazah the whole season, and now you drop me for him? Like, you know, come on, guys, a little bit. So Slasher will obviously want to beat FaZe when they play them next year, and certainly Priestahh will want to beat New York, right? This is one of the key storylines developing here. We don't fully know all the behind-the-scenes details, but clearly Priestahh isn't so happy with how things went down there with the Subliners, and maybe some of the ways that his teammates treated him, because a lot of the tweets we saw him like the other day, and also I put out this stupid, like, Mbappe one last night, and this also found its way into his Twitter like. So I says, you know, Boston versus New York, I'll be there no matter what, and Priestahh like this one. So clearly he's interested in also looking forward to those New York matchups next season. And Boston versus New York anyway it's been a lot of fun over the last couple of years. Good, you know, local rivalry anyway. I think New York generally got the better of Boston, certainly back in the Vanguard here. I seem to remember that New York would always tend to beat them, and I guess this past season New York were even better. better. So probably that trend continued, but Boston are looking to get revenge. Priestahh certainly is, and a bit of a revenge tour for both of those two guys, right? Slasher and Priestahh. So I think that's going to be exciting to watch. Can that team be any better than 5th? Will they even be the 5th best team? It's difficult to say. I think it depends a lot on the SMG line. Snoopy alongside somebody else. Afro would be a good option. There are other options. There's Hook, there's Standy. I know that some people have raised the idea of bringing Fame in, who was pretty impressive, I thought, for Rokkr. Didn't do anything spectacular, but I think Fame could be a pretty versatile piece that potentially should improve over time. So that's an interesting possibility as well. But yeah, Gizmo says, oh, congrats Afro joining Boston. So, you know, I don't think that either this is happening or that he knows too much about it. Otherwise, I doubt that he would just leak it straight onto the timeline. Also, Minnesota Rokkr, though, because what are they cooking up? They were one of the teams that I thought might look pretty heavily at Slasher, this Slasher-Priestahh combination. Clearly, that's not happening. Maybe Rokkr just took too long on this, because our understanding is they're undergoing some sort of merger, probably with G2. We're not really sure, but that's the current rumor, that there's some sort of G2 Rokkr merger thing going on, at which point next season they'll be in potentially a better financial position, even though the league might not be, and we discussed that in a bit of detail yesterday. But according to CDOR Scum Intel, this tweet they did, which we thought, alright, is this just different colours representing different teams, and they've got one player from each team type thing, and we had some theories on what rosters that might potentially be. But Ronnie reckons this was meant to be the Infinity Stones. Pretty interesting idea. That was my guess, at least, as they wanted Slasher at the time. So apparently they wanted Slasher, maybe they moved too slow or whatever, but it never happens, and Boston have that now, and Rokkr will now need to go down an entirely different direction. It's difficult to say what they're going to do next, because out of all the players that you could get, Slasher, Priestahh, some good options. There was, though, we've got to say, and we'll discuss Clay in a second, some people linking Clayster to Boston right at the start of this Rostermania period, or at least saying that there were conversations there ongoing. Then Slasher was dropped. Clearly, he was maybe a higher option candidate for these rosters than Clay was, so Clay's kind of gone down the priority list a little bit. But still, could Rokkr benefit from a guy like Clay? Probably, yes. Ben, though, has a different opinion. We'll get to that in a second, at least in terms of where he's going to go. There's also this from the Mutineers. Still a little bit unclear whether they're going to be the Florida Mutineers, whether it's going to be the Miami Mutineers, or whether it's going to be the Miami Heretics, as we thought it was going to be. So they do this pretty funny tweet here, right, deleting threads with a couple of other applications on their page, but one of them is the Messi store. And if you guys know anything about Lionel Messi, you'll know he's recently joined Inter Miami, and obviously, you know, Argentinian player, but played for a long time in Barcelona, like, you know, in Spanish-speaking country. So maybe there's something to be said about that, whether they are still going to go down the Spanish-speaking route. But I think the idea there's Messi here and he's joined Inter Miami, like, it does feel like probably it's going to be a Miami Mutineers next season. That's kind of the way that I'm leaning at the moment, but who knows? I don't know exactly why they would change that for no reason if there's no like additional branding getting changed around. So I guess we'll see what they decide to do. But the latest rumor still is that they're going to bring on some Spanish guys, and if they don't, then they're going to build around Vikul and Brack, I think. That's what we believe at the moment. I've got like in the pins in the description box, sorry, there is like, I'm trying to keep it up to date with the changes to the rosters down there somewhere. So, you know, if you guys are unfamiliar with all the stuff that's going on, like any rumors, I'll try and chuck down in the description box, or at least some of the confirmations when they start to come through. So Mutineers, we don't really know, but it's Vikul +3 is what we presently believe. Now, the Los Angeles Guerrillas haven't really got much talking time, let's be honest, over the last couple of weeks here, mainly because we're not really sure what they're up to. We thought that RCTs was there, and then the latest rumor is that RCTs has been released from his contract, so he's going to be potentially out of there. Phoenix, former head coach for the Seattle Surge, has held talks with and might potentially join LAG. Interesting if they're building around a coach before they really sign any players. But this is where people are wondering around Clay. Where does he go? Does he go back to Vegas? Does he really want to? And I think based on what he said here in this clip, ideally that's probably not the case. Benjay Nassim says if he had to guess where Clay's going, it's Guerrillas, which is interesting. Like, okay, we only have like a 4-second clip, so I can't exactly tell what the context behind this was, whether there's more to it, or whether Ben, this is just like an off-the-cuff remark rather than Ben actually knows something here. But Clay's thoughts on Vegas are also interesting in the sense that it seems to imply what he says in this clip, that last season, everyone had their own certain agendas on that roster, including himself, and those agendas are more likely to be, can I get off this franchise?
I don't think so.
There's a lot of losers out there in the world, so they would
so many losers, bro. That's the thing, bro. The thing about COD especially is people do not know how to win, like at all. Like, even this year on my Legion team, like, Eli can attest to this, it was almost impossible to get better because of the amount of, like, personal agendas at play. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, I can see it, and I didn't feel it.
like, not like, you know, even me included, but it's just like people that
It's not
weren't.
like anyone's fault, but
No, yeah, it wasn't. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. It's just like the personalities we had combined on the team made it difficult to improve because we were constantly infighting. You know, like, and that's just like the nature of it. Like, it
Teams
was.
just don't like match personalities and shit.
Where do I think Clay goes? LAG. Where do I think Clay goes? LAG.
So that is the trouble when you're playing for the Vegas Legion, right? Is that everyone really wants to go to a better franchise that's going to pay more money, actually has a facility, and I'm sure that if Clay had to choose between Guerrillas and, you know, because Guerrillas, look, they might not have the most money anymore with all the stuff that's going down with their organization. They might not exist in another year. They might change their branding. We're not really sure. They might get bought out. But, you know, they've at least taken it relatively serious over the first few years of the CDL. Yes, the results have been terrible. They have invested decent money. They have at least had an event win with Sasha and Co somehow back in Major 2 of the 2022 season in Vanguard. So I'm sure that's going to be a preferential spot, you would think, to the Vegas Legion. But this is the issue. Like, Clay and Temp seem to get on, but there is always an element there when you're playing for Vegas that you're always in the shop window a little bit, right? Like, everyone who plays for Vegas or like Paris Legion as it was before is not necessarily trying to win events. They're trying to prove to the rest of the league that they're a valuable upgrade to their other rosters. And maybe that's not the entirety of the agendas there that Clay is talking about, but I imagine that's part of it. And Stanley was on the call, and so maybe Clay and Stanley run it back somewhere else. But this is definitely a possibility that Clay is looking at, you know, the Temp situation and the other players that they had throughout the tenure on the team and realizing, himself included, that there is a little bit of shopping around that is done there. Like, if you can look good on Vegas, you can get picked up elsewhere. And we'll see what happens with Donny Temp, right? Because, again, he was pretty good this year. Many of Temp's teammates have said he's getting better and better as a teammate. There's a good chance that a better organization comes along and gives Temp an offer. Not saying that's undeserved, but when you play for Legion, you kind of know that you're not really going to be winning an event, and therefore it's about looking good, so other teams might give you an offer. So for Clay, is that going to be Los Angeles Guerrillas? That might align with kind of what we're hearing, just because if Arcetes is gone and released from his deal, then Clay coming in as the main AR might make sense. Who would they build around him? That's obviously a massive question, but I kind of like the idea. Clay, to me, is like a veteran IGL AR. You've got Sasha, he's now signed to Boston. You've got the likes of Accuracy, you've got the likes of Clay, and if you're trying to build a team for the future, bringing on some younger, rookie, more kind of raw players alongside characters like this can be the way to do it. Clay to Los Angeles Guerrillas might make a fair bit of sense, but I'm hoping if they do that, they at least have some budget to spend next season so they can actually build a decent team, because otherwise, is there really much difference going to Guerrillas and going to Legion? Possibly not. So Clay hasn't commented on this. We'll see what happens over the coming days on this one. And just quickly before we close out here on the alarms that you've got to set tonight, not exactly sure when this is happening, because the FaZe announcement is going to happen on Zoomer's stream before this special flank episode. So I don't know whether it's going to be significantly before the flank episode, which is pretty late actually, or whether it's going to be just before, or we'll see, I suppose. But tonight sometime they're going to announce FaZe Drazah, we believe. This is also pretty funny because we saw a while ago now that Gersh did this joke about having Crimsix have the FaZe tick, right? And they've given the same thing to BenJ to see, and I think it was this tweet from FaZe that said we're going to give our new fourth a badge tomorrow, and then BenJ Nassim gets it, so maybe that's an indication as to who's going to be their new player. But very much enjoyed to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.